Hey, it's Jacob Nordby back with you. It is August. It is time for another update, and I'm so happy to be here. It's been a wild summer for probably a lot of us, maybe you too, but I have been busy. I've been traveling, I've been working, been trying to relax around the edges, but I wanted to come back here and do a couple of things today. First of all, just give a shout out to all my folks who are involved in the Institute for Creative Living and Heal Plus Create. We are busy right now with our team moving the community over from the Institute for Creative Living, which will then house the nonprofit activity for research and development of programs to help people connect better with their inner creative selves, with their spirituality, with their health, with their joy, with their sense of purpose. Heal Plus Create will be where the community lives, and we'll be adding an app to that pretty soon. So that's very exciting, makes it a lot easier for us to connect and communicate that way. But before I jump into all of that, also, I wanted to spend some time in today's update and talk about practice. You hear about spiritual practice, meditation practice, mindfulness practice, gratitude practice, all these things. And what's interesting to me is that the key word to all of these things is practice. And anyone who has ever gone down a path of mastery, whether that's some sort of academic discipline or physical discipline or musical discipline, what you know is you have to start with the very basics, and you have to do those things over and over and over again until they become part of your cells and become part of your personality. You develop the muscle memory and the intellectual memory and all of that. And so one thing that I want to talk about today is that the importance of developing an actual practice where we reconnect with who we really are, because that to me is kind of the umbrella practice of all of them, which means that we get back into our true wisdom, we get back into our true guidance, we get back into our ability to connect with each other and also with the universe and with intuition. And it also begins to open us up so that we can live a more creative life, that we can have a sense of purpose, that our life matters here. And I think that that's one thing we're experiencing right now in a lot of different ways, is that we are not feeling stable at the moment. There's a lot of destabilization, whether it's politics or business, the economy, all of these different things make us be in a state of feeling shaken up. And I wanted to take a moment and share a screen with you to show you what's going on in our nervous systems and the way that our nervous systems react to change, which equals anxiety, which equals shifting around and feeling destabilized. And these things can then lead us to making poor decisions. We can become reactive. We can fall into addictive patterns. We can begin to hurt each other, hurt ourselves. So let me just take a minute and show you a screen here. And this will illustrate. I have used this over and over again as I've taught for the last several years, but this to me becomes such a fascinating experience because I have tattooed this virtually inside my skull. And so when I'm driving down the road, when I'm sitting in a meeting, when I'm talking to someone, I begin to make reference to this polyvagal curve, what's going on in my body, what's going on in my mind. And let's just start at where most of us live a lot of the time, and that is fight or flight. Okay. As we move into this up this arousal curve, and it's not sexual arousal, in this case, it is anxiety arousal. We move away from down here, what I call the green zone, the ventral vagal state, and we move up into fight or flight. Now, there's nothing particularly wrong with fight or flight. It's there for a reason, right? It helps us react to situations in which we need to make quick decisions, in which there could be physical danger. It basically helps us stay alive. So it's definitely a part of our survival strategy, our evolution, to become creatures who can react and respond to the stimulus, to the circumstances we're in. But many of us find ourselves in fight or flight most of the time. All right. Now, I'll just be a little vulnerable and tell you that, I grew up with a childhood where there was a lot of trauma. As I progressed into adulthood, I didn't know why I wasn't ever able to sleep well. I didn't know why I always kind of felt like there was the, shoe that was ready to drop. Like, okay, I'm having something good happen right now, but I always felt very hyper vigilant about when's that next shoe going to drop. And so it made it very hard to actually enjoy ease and relish the moment. It made it very hard to ever actually deeply relax. Over the years, I learned a lot about trauma and how to heal some of those roots and how to go into those things, which is why we're talking about a practice right now, because I found that developing a rock solid practice every single day would make a huge difference to my mental health, to the way I felt, to my physical health, right? So let's spend a little time here and just look at this chart. As you'll notice, the attributes of going up this scale, we get worry and concern, frustration, irritation, anxiety, fear, and anger. And then as we move up, it becomes panic or rage. So I don't know if you have already jumped to this, but if you're thinking about our world right now and how reactive a lot of people are with each other, as we go up this curve, what happens is we have less and less access to our rational mind. We begin to and physically speaking, our vision begins to tunnel, like, soldiers or people in a firefight of some kind where there's, very present physical danger. Physically speaking, their eyes begin to actually develop tunnel vision. So they lose their peripheral vision. They got to be deadly focused on exactly what's in front of them. And when we go into that state, it's very easy to perceive others as our enemies, even if that was not their intent. It's very easy then to react to them and actually strike out. And I think politically, I think in business, there's just an awful lot of reactivity right now. People are moving through the world in fear. Now, notice this line here, this dotted line. Up until this line, it says, I can. And so your body is sending signals. You got to do something. You got to either run away or fight. Once you cross that line, though, you move into the freeze zone. And this is where we start to develop a sense of, I can't do anything about this. I go into freeze. I conserve my energy. I'm helpless. I develop depression, numbness, disassociation, shame, shutdown, hopelessness, preparation for death, and feeling very trapped. Okay. One of the simplest definitions of the word trauma is the quality of being unable to do anything about it, the quality of being completely trapped. And if you notice, if you watch nature shows, you notice the cheetah or the lion running after a gazelle, and up until a certain moment, that gazelle is giving it all it possibly has. It's stretched out, it's running as fast as it can, but at that critical moment when the lion or the cheetah's jaws clamp down on the gazelle's neck, all of a sudden it just goes limp. All right. That's what's happening. Its brain is actually sending chemicals to say, okay, it's over. And it actually begins to numb it out physically, mentally. It disassociates because what's going to happen is not going to be good. All right. What I want you to know, though, is that because of our storytelling ability, humans have this ability to tell stories about a situation in ways that other animals, we don't believe that they do. We actually can create situations in our minds where we are feeling very much up in fight or flight or in freeze, when that may or may not be the truth of that actual situation. This is where practice comes in. So let's move down here into the green zone for just a moment and notice that in this area, we are able to have social engagement, which means connection, safety, oriented to the environment. Even as I'm saying these words, I could feel my shoulders drop. I can feel myself loosen up a little bit. Some of the other attributes here are joy. We're in the present. We feel grounded. We're curious and open, right? So we begin to just be willing to look at the situation with a lot more openness and say, oh, what are the facts here? Whereas when we're way up here in fight or flight or freeze, we are not able to do that. And we shouldn't even feel shame about not even be able to do that. It's a physiological response to feeling like we are needing to fight, flee, or just freeze and let it happen. So as we move down into this social engagement area, this green zone, the ventral vagal state, we also are able to have compassion, which means we're able to see others clearly and hold them as they are without needing them to change. We become more mindful. But look what's happening physically also. some really wonderful things happen in the green zone physically. Digestion increases, resistance to infection, immune response. We're able to rest more easily, circulation to the non-vital organs like skin and extremities. So what I'm trying to say here is going into the green zone actually is one of the ways to obtain the fountain of youth, which means we become younger. Our bodies gain more resiliency and energy and vitality if we go to the green zone on purpose on a regular basis. We also release oxytocin, which is that neuromodulator that's involved in social bonds that allows immobility without fear. So as a young person, as an adult, really until just a few years ago, I would find myself going to, say, a movie or going into a large crowd, and I would find myself getting up constantly, going to the bathroom, checking my phone, just kind of being antsy. And people would say, "What are you doing? Just sit down." What I didn't realize then is this was an unconscious behavior of mine because I didn't feel safe just sitting still. All right. Social anxiety is a real thing, and I sometimes still experience it, but a lot less now because I've developed a daily practice. I think I'll stop there for the moment and just say that's a little bit of a primer on what it is I am seeking to do with the Institute for Creative Living, the research and development of programs, but also the real experiences at Heal Plus Create, the events we put on, the workshops, the sessions, the community. This is where we're going, is developing more and more of our innate genius, our innate intuition, our ability to guide ourselves and direct our own lives and move through the world with a lot more compassion, with a lot more ease, with a lot more peace. And also, once you go into that green zone, I love to say this is also the creative zone, because what happens is we actually open up our minds from this tunnel vision up until we begin to notice resources, opportunities, solutions to challenges we're having. We begin to notice synchronicities. In other words, we begin to open our minds up to the vast amount of intelligence, wisdom, and direction and guidance that is really all around us at all times. So sometimes I think it's good to remind myself and to remind everyone who's connected to me, involved in some of my communities, of why we're doing this, because I know that accessing that creative's green zone, that beautiful, powerful place that lives inside of you right now, developing practices to get there, whether it's meditation, walking, yoga, journaling, therapy, a lot of therapeutic approaches can help us get there. But I just want to encourage you to understand that it's no good waiting for the world to turn back to normal, because we have been in a state of intense change for so many years now, that the idea of reclaiming some kind of dreamlike normal state where everything feels solid and good and certain, that is not really a realistic goal at this point. A realistic goal is to say, I need to learn to surf the waves more masterfully, with more ease, with more confidence. And some of the ways to do that are getting involved with getting back in touch with your body. This is why we offer things like the Dao Yin Yoga, Qigong practice, bringing in other meditative practices, all these sorts of things. So I just want to encourage you, as you're connecting with me and with my community, just know that that's where we're going, is developing more and more of these processes that basically hold up a mirror and show you what is already inside of you, the power that you already have to direct your life, to connect with your own inner wisdom, and to just feel such a greater sense of well-being as you live the life that you were meant to live. I also wanted to point out that this book, this anthology about journaling, I was honored to be asked to submit a chapter for this, and so I have, and that is now out. I'll make sure there's links to it there. And also behind me, you see a couple of my books, Creative Cure and Blessed Are the Weird. And the Creative Cure was really a book I wrote specifically to deal with some of the things that I've been sharing in this update as well, so that you know that there are very distinct and simple practices that you can undertake right away, and you don't have to wait for a special workshop or a special teacher. You can actually just do these things. But what I want to say is, what I've noticed is a lot of people kind of want to get the fruits of mastery without the practice. I just want to say that the world we're living in right now, the amount of intense change and foment and turmoil we're experiencing, it is no longer optional. If you want a life that feels peaceful, in which you feel that you're at the steering wheel, um, in which you feel like you have confidence in knowing how to take the next step forward, sometimes if it's even if it's very, very slowly, or it feels like a tiny little step. I just want to say that it's no longer optional to develop a personal practice. It doesn't have to look exactly like mine. It doesn't have to include all the things that everyone says you have to have, but just a simple settling down into that polyvagal green zone, just a simple moving back down so you can feel yourself deeply relaxing. And that's why we are offering practices, sessions, information, all of that sort of thing through Heal Plus Create, and will be going forward more and more. So I hope that this update has been helpful for you. I have some very exciting news that I can't quite share, but probably in the next few weeks, I'll be able to share, hopefully by next week. And I'll send you updates on a very special writers retreat that I'm putting on this fall in the Bay Area. And that is coming together beautifully, and it's going to be very exciting. And we're going to do it hybrid, which means that even if you can't travel to the Bay Area to experience some of these, really a dream team of presenters. I wish I could mention their names right now, but we're not quite there. But you'll be able to access that from anywhere in the world. So I'm really excited about offering that to you. And we'll have some other things coming right up to share with you, whether you're a writer or not, because I see you as a creative individual. As Cameron says, there is no such thing as an uncreative human. Every human being is creative. And what creativity means to me is you expressing the spark that you were when you came into this world, unburying it under whatever layers of socialization or trauma or rejection, anything you've experienced that's caused you to develop a hard outer shell that does not allow you to move easily and creatively in this world. However, your creative inner self wants to express in your life, in your work, in your relationships, in your home environment, in your body, with your art, with anything it is that you wish to create. That's what we're doing here, is saying you deserve to live a life that matters to you, that feels like it's connected to purpose. That is creating things that feel joyful and good. So I'm going to sign off for now, but thank you so much for being here. And we'll be back with you really soon with more information.